live from Palm Beach. And tonight we'll begin, and then we'll come back to the story about the shootings because we'll get more details on it. But let's begin with that. When I say shootings, really it's one shooting, a terrible one in Kansas City, at the end of the Kansas City Chiefs uh, parade to celebrate their unbelievable win in the Super Bowl. I mean, an overtime win, unbelievable. One of the great, I think, one of the great Super Bowls. A great quarterback on his way to maybe becoming another Tom Brady or Joe Montana or everything plus that whole story with Kelsey and oh, what's the singer's name? I can't remember. Well, yeah, she's not famous. He was famous. Football is a lot more important to me than silly singing. Oh, I'm sorry. I know she's got a lot of fans. Taylor Swift. I know who she is. Honestly, though, I don't know any of his songs. I know his touchdown catches though. And it is not true. He is not going to change his name to Travis Swift. No way. And if you do, you're not getting back in the clubhouse. So, unfortunately, we don't have much more than this, but it's a lot. Uh, right now, it is one person dead, 11 person 11 person wounded, 20 or 22 shot. All at the end of the Super Bowl. Seems to me it was near the Union Station in Kansas City. Now, I know Kansas City fairly well. I have a picture in my mind of that, and I've seen pictures of it too. It looks like it looks to me, and I could be wrong, but it looks to me like it happened as the ceremony was breaking up, as the mayor was there and all of the officials and all of the players, and they had their congratulatory speeches, uh, uh, and as they were breaking up, shooting started. They haven't released they have one weapon. They haven't released the caliber. They haven't said what kind of a weapon it was. Uh, they have arrested 3 people for being in, as you know, of course, they call it a person of interest at this point, but I think you'd probably understand it better as a suspect, suspected of doing these shootings. Beyond that, we don't know anything about. Uh, we presume they're male. These shooters are always male. It's like 98%. And watch, it'll be 3 females. And that's it. That's all we know. No motive, no words that we know yet yelled out that would indicate why it was done, um, and no information about what they look like. Some horrendous stories, and we'll play some of them for you a little later about rescues and a blind woman who was helped by another person of sight to be able to get out, and the woman was enormously grateful, as you might imagine, and and of course, tremendous shock in the community. I had numerous parades like that. I had, of course, the ones that I probably remember the most for the Yankees. We had 4 Yankee World Series parades. We had a parade for the Stanley Cup for the New York Rangers. We had parades for heroes, uh, and they were wonderful events. And I do remember being very worried about it because it was post the first attack on the World Trade Center and before the second. So from the very first one, we had tremendous amount of extra security because it was such a hell of a target for terrorists. If you recall, those parades have paper confetti, they call it, but it's actually paper thrown down on the heroes. So all those windows are open, and everybody's hanging out the windows. And we actually had thought about banning it, and of course, might as well not have the parade. So we did it with tremendous policing and a lot of ulcers, and got through them all. Thank God. Um, we were even in a debate when the Yankees lost the 7th game of the World Series to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Number one, as to whether to have it, and number 2, where. Where had been decided. I don't mind telling you, it wasn't going to be at the Canyon of Heroes. It was going to be in Broadway, because the Canyon of Heroes was filled with equipment, because we were in the middle of the recovery effort at World Trade Center. but we had decided to go forward with it. Of course, then it wasn't necessary. So our prayers, our thoughts, anything we can do to help the people of Kansas City, I obviously would be more than willing to help. At times I have been, at other times not, but I kind of know what you do in a situation like this, tragically, because aside from the terrible attack of September 11, New York City is an emergency a week and a catastrophe a month. So if you don't get used to handle them, you don't get used to anything. And then, of course, there was also, it appeared to be another shooting almost simultaneously. Around 3:00 in the afternoon, there were reports of a shooting at Palm Beach Gardens in a mall, the Gardens Mall. And again, it was two people, a gun. A tremendous number of police responded and fire. And the end result was that it appears to be a false alarm. Maybe a gun went off, maybe two. That led to a bit of a panic. As far as I know, no injuries, but we'll get more details on that. And then we'll go back a little later in the show and show you some film of what happened and answer some questions about it.
That's right. For the
Ted?
Palm Beach Gardens shooting, well, for the incident at Palm Beach Gardens, police are now saying the incident was not an active shooter. Palm Beach Gardens police are following up.
What does that mean? Not an active shooter.
Was not an active shooter. So police are following up on investigative leads into potential suspects. It will be the mall is going to remain closed Wednesday.
It'll be an accidental shooting.
Yes,
gun went off. I mean, and nowadays we're in a stage where almost anything would create a panic. Understandably,
possible, and this we don't want to speculate, but the police are saying to local television that the shooting was possibly gang related. One victim showed up at St. Mary's Medical Center, but their condition was unclear. No bystanders have been reported injured. The city said in a statement just after 6 p.m., so this is just 2 hours ago, that it was not an active shooting event, quote, not an active shooter event, and that it did not appear to be a random shooting. So this kind of indicates that it may have been a targeted shooting among gang members, potentially.
Again, we're speculating. And notice how slow they are now to put out this information. I think a lot of that is because there have been so many in the past where mistakes are made. And I used to do it different. I used to put out everything I had and tell you there were mistakes made and just understand it. I'd almost say, don't count on these facts. But I'm going to let you know what I know in an effort toward transparency, and then I'll correct them for you. And I think I developed more trust that way, because I would often come back and say, no, it wasn't 3 people, it was 4, or it wasn't 3, it was 2, or. But you sort of get it the way the police get it. You're not going to really have the facts until tomorrow anyway. Kind of really sort it out when everybody can go back over it, and all the people in different places. You can look at all of their different versions. So to other news, it looks like the cheap nations of Europe who are freeloaders do not want to put their money in for the UN because Biden let them get away. They had a couple of good years, and their real worry about this election is if Trump gets elected, they may have to pay. Germany might have to pay. I mean, Germany goes around boasting about being the richest country in Europe, and they like more than half the countries of Europe. A lot of them really poor. Poland, for example, pays more of its. When I say pay, here's what it means. It means you're required under NATO to at least use 2% of your GDP for defense. So nobody's a basket case. In other words, you want to be part of NATO, you got to be a contributor. They don't make you pay into NATO. I guess you pay something into NATO, but that isn't the money that's at issue. The money that's at issue is, do you have to have a somewhat robust defense so that you can defend Europe? So that one country bears all the burden. Of course, our sucker presidents never paid attention to that. And if you multiply by all the things we didn't pay attention to, hence some of our massive debt. Trump being a businessman, one of the sharpest things that he did, and I've gotten this from European leaders, is to say, you're paying. Come on. You want to be part of it, you're paying. Now, suppose I said to one of these freeloading, cheap sons of you know what, you're paying. Well, suppose I don't pay, and suppose I get attacked. You're gonna support me anyway, right? Suppose I said yes, they'd probably give me less. So he's going to say yes. Now, the answer to that is the same answer Ted and I got when we asked him about Putin. Uh, I was having a conversation with him. It wasn't off the record or on the record. It wasn't confidential, so I can repeat it. We were having a conversation about whether Ukraine would have occurred under him, which I really don't even have to ask him. I know it would. And he said, no way. Putin was afraid. And we said, well, why was Putin afraid? And he said, well, I told him early on, after he did that crazy thing in 2014 and Obama did nothing about it but shoot his mouth off and not even give Ukraine guns. I told him, you do that when I'm president, it'll embarrass me. So I'll just have to attack Moscow. So we said, well, did he believe you? And he looked at us straight face and he said, 10%. I want you to realize how smart that is. That's all you got to do. That's what Reagan did. You got to get in their heads. Look, they are evil. They're madmen. They're killers. But this is not the Ayatollah. Putin doesn't want to go see his 79 versions because he doesn't believe it. He doesn't believe there are 79. He can do arithmetic and he realizes that the math is off between men and women. It's roughly 50-50. Ain't no 79 versions up there. So he doesn't want to die. And Putin doesn't want to be the leader of Russia who destroyed the Russian people any more than obviously no American president wants to be. So he's going to make rational decisions on the savage, vicious side. He'll take advantage of what you let him do. Sometime I'll point out to you how he played Biden for 2 months, so he was absolutely sure nothing would happen to him. But he knew that Trump was a risk. He wasn't going to take the risk. Now, proof? Putin has attacked 3 times in the last 12 years, 13 years. Once under Bush, Georgia. Once under Prince Obama. That was Ukraine first time. And once under the demented one. And when did he attack? When the guy that told him, I'm going to attack you, was there. You think maybe there's a reason for it? So that is exactly that's exactly the situation you have to set up with these countries, which we do not have now. That doesn't exist. That fear doesn't exist. In fact, it's just the opposite. There's a fairly certain sense that you aren't going to get attacked because Biden looks pathetic when he says things like, we don't want to be engaged in a war. We won't put boots on the ground. Look, I agree with the fact that we shouldn't be engaged in a war, and I agree that we shouldn't put boots on the ground. But I think his cowardly behavior, which engenders all of these wars and attacks, is much more likely to jeopardize America and is much more likely to get us into a war. Appeasement have gotten us into wars a heck of a lot more than courage and standing up to them and being more powerful than they are. That won the Cold War without human life being lost, thanks to Ronald Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, and the Pope, all playing their roles. And Thatcher's sort of the in-between person, the Pope obviously the peacemaker, and Reagan the tough guy, who they were afraid was only too happy to bomb Russian cities. Not true. Not true. What he's doing with the UN is what he's doing with NATO is absolutely right. Let me tell you another secret about the NATO that the lying New York legacy press, whatever we want to call them, the lying communist-oriented press that makes up most of America, doesn't tell you. With all this love affair with NATO, most of NATO doesn't fight. They don't fight. Like shoot, shoot, shoot. I would say about a third of NATO fights. So when they let's take France, for example. Big country, big army. a lot of times in Afghanistan, Iraq, places like that, they'd be there, but they'd be with the medics. They weren't on the lines. So just think of the morale problems that created. The most reliable were obviously the U.S., a wonderful ally Australia. For that purpose, a wonderful ally Canada, and a wonderful ally UK. And you know, if Israel was in NATO, they'd be leading everybody, except maybe us. But that's it. The rest did occasionally fight, but when they felt like it. You know, the French got up in the morning and said, well, today we're going to fight. Tomorrow we won't. Now, if you want to go back and check me, just go back to reports back in 03, 04, during the original Iraq War and then the Afghanistan War. All the complaints of our troops, even when they came back here, that it was very, very destructive to morale to have a large group of soldiers not fighting. It was destructive to their morale. There were reports interviewing them where they are embarrassed because to a soldier like that, that's cowardice, isn't it? Wouldn't that be considered cowardice? I think it is. But in any event, by doing this, nobody's dropping out. Believe me, it isn't that much money for any of them. They're all putting their money in, including cheapskate Germany. France is only like 0.25% off. Germany's way off. I mean, Germany's disgraceful. Poland contributes more to its GDP than we do. Countries like Lithuania, Latvia contribute their fair share. Of the big countries, the UK does, of course, honorable country. But most of them don't. It's like 2/3 do not. And he's absolutely right to do it. What's the use of having this thing if it doesn't fight? And let's have the ones who do fight, so that when I go into battle, I know I have somebody behind me, and not somebody, way back at the camp getting ready to pick up my body. So I think once again, this is one of the reasons why Trump should be our president. And notice all the people who are complaining about it. They're all the people who have brought us to multiple useless wars. They're the people who told us that there were weapons of nuclear destruction, right? All of them. Those are the people that wrote the letters about how I was a Russian pawn. So I'm not exactly in love with them. So I think the freeloaders should pay. Poland pays at 3.9% of its GDP to defense. America 3.49%, which is the lowest in modern peacetime, by the way. Of course, we have a pacifist, cowardly president, the one without a brain. And it isn't because he doesn't have a brain. He's been like this he's been anti-defense from the day the crook came into the United States Senate. I mean, the guy's career is disgraceful. Disgraceful. As Gates, his fellow cabinet member in the Prince Obama administration, said, he was wrong about every issue of foreign policy ever. He's been anti-American since I can remember him. The lowest country does make a little sense, I might say. It's Luxembourg at 0.72. Now, Luxembourg is about the size of Central Park. So, but again, they're 2% of their GDP. They're a very rich country. Oh, please don't get angry at me, Luxembourg. I had a great trip there. There are people who suspect they do a lot of money laundering. Oh, that would be true. They certainly got a lot more money than their size, and they're a beautiful country. I think come up with 2% of your GDP for defense to help the rest of Europe, given the mere fact that you're not. I guess you figure that all the bad guys have money in your banks, and therefore they're not going to attack you. You're sort of like a Switzerland, right? So then get the hell out if you're not going to pay. Got to build up accountability with all of these people. So we will take a short break, and when we come back, we will we'll take a look at what's happening to Biden. Is he in fact deconstructing in front of our eyes?
And we're gonna start off with our friend Mike Lindell and MyPillow. We have a great graphic up on the screen here. You can get the 6-piece towel set, and look at the savings: 50% off when you use the promo code Rudy. So be sure to go to mypillow.com. Use that promo code Rudy. Not only are you getting a great product for you or maybe somebody you love, but you're also supporting everything the mayor is doing here on America's Mayor Live. So visit mypillow.com and get your MyPillow product today. Of course, we talked about the towels. We've shown the pillow repeatedly, time and time again, whether here in Florida or up in New York, but there's so many other great products, right, Mayor?
This would be totally unorthodox, and I would be getting a lot of trouble. I probably should do my show in bed one day with all my pillow stuff around me.
That's right. So just so go to MyPillow.
I love MyPillow. I love Mike. There are very few times when you can do something patriotic in buying sheets and towels and robes and slippers and all sorts of things. Very rarely can you help your country doing that. Well, you're doing that. Obviously, you're helping him, but he helps our country more than anybody else. Look, the lefties do this all the time. That's how all those guys like Zuckerberg and become so rich, and then they rape us, right? Look what Zuckerberg did with the Zucker boxes. Take the Zucker boxes away, everybody in Ukraine's alive. Ever think of that? If Biden weren't elected, I want you to do a It's a Wonderful Life analysis. You know, when the angel takes Mr. Bailey, that's his name, James Stewart, shows him what it would be like if he had never lived, and all the people that would have been suffering and living a much different life, and how his wife would be an old maid, very bitter, upset librarian. And I want you to take away, I just want you to take away for a moment, what if Trump had been reelected? Would Putin have invaded Ukraine? No. I think 90% of you can agree on that. The 10% that can't, think hard. You will. Now, all those people would all be alive today. There are consequences of major proportions to your selections for high public office. And very often, when it's president, the consequences of life and death, there probably have never been worse consequences than this one. Other than a time of war, no American president has presided over the loss of more life than this one. And certainly no one that I know of has caused more loss of human life by his, I don't know, you could call them reckless decisions. You could call them, I don't know if you call them insane, but decisions emerging from a deteriorated mind, or you could call them compromise decisions, because his corruption was not just with some crooked businessman. His corruption were with our biggest enemies, who are sworn to our destruction, who pay enormous amounts of money to infiltrate our universities, our businesses, our government. I mean, they spend billions on that. To give him 30, 40 million, so what? Just a little creep. Sold out senator. They have no respect for him. No, it's the funniest thing. You never have respect for the rats on the other side. You never do. You buy them, but you don't respect them. I can't imagine that Xi or Putin have any respect for them. They just love to use them. And they wonder how this ever happened to them. I mean, they've been through American presidents, nothing like this. I mean, my goodness, the guy just gives up an airbase 400 miles from China. So MyPillows, you go to MyPillows, you order mypillows.com/Rudy. You're going to help all the people at MyPillows. You're going to help Mike. Mike should be able to help everybody else, including me. I could use a little help. And it would be really nice for his morale if you did a real infusion this weekend, just everybody call all weekend. Okay. So as we come back, let's cover some of the stories, some of the 5 that aren't being covered. First of all, I want you to know, and I want you to rest easy now, because you may have been nervous watching Biden and seeing how demented he is, that he might not last. Don't worry. Vice President Harris has told us she's ready to step up. I heard you all. Please calm down. Everybody calm down. Calm down. Calm down. I didn't say she would. I told you she's ready to step up. Do we have any the best of Harris to play for them so they can get used to their possible new president, Ted?
Right.
We got something ready? Or we need a little
Yeah,
time?
we need a little bit of time.
All right, we'll
You
start.
want the video or the pictures? We have pictures from.
Oh, no, pictures are no good. It's always her. It's always her brilliant sentences. She's like a Chinese puzzle.
Yeah.
That's what I would say, you know?
Yeah, we'll get.
She's like these people that say things that are so stupid you think they're smart. You know, well, I don't understand it, therefore I can't be that smart. But they actually didn't say anything. So let's listen to one of those when you get a chance. We do have, of course, some bad news from our point of view, which is the loss in the 3rd Congressional District in New York, which was part of Queens and a lot of Nassau County, in which the former United States Congressman Swazi defeated Mezi Philip. It was supposed to be a close race with a chance for Mezi Philip to win, and it turned out to be quite a decisive victory for Swazi. Maybe a few lessons from it. Mezi Philip was very really light on qualifications. She had held one public office in this county legislature for 2 years. She had no experience really with foreign affairs, domestic affairs, budgets. She was a soldier who served bravely in the IDF. She had a background that was fascinating. She was born in Ethiopia, served in Israel, was an American citizen, a very dedicated one, worked very hard in America. And maybe with a few lower offices, she could prove herself and come back. I thought she was a good candidate. As a first-time candidate, she made the usual mistakes, had to clarify things, and not more than usual. And I thought she had a possible winning issue, which was the surge of illegal immigration, which is particularly hitting New York. And really, I mean, it's taking the mayor, and it's taking his approval rating down to the lowest in the history of U.S. mayors, meaning since they've been taking it, which is pretty rough. But we had some really bad mayors. On the other hand, it's always hard. I tell all young politicians this, and they look at me like I'm an old jerk. And you never want to run against a pro if you can help it. You give me a choice between a pro that looks like he's wounded and a new guy who hasn't run before. I'll take the new guy who hasn't run before. The new guy who hasn't run before is going to make 2, 3 mistakes. The pro is going to figure out every angle to beat you. Swazi's a pro. He dominated that district. His family has. His father was I believe, the mayor of Great Neck. He was the mayor of Great Neck. His father was a very distinguished judge there. It's a name that reverberates there. And he was a congressman who, although he had a rather liberal voting record, pretty much all Biden, he did a good job. And I say this being critical. I don't like people who do this, but I understand that politicians do. He did a pretty good job of posing as a moderate, even though he did things like not report illegal migrants to ICE. How you don't do that, I don't understand. He also supported at one point defunding the police, although he changed his mind on that. That was sort of an emotional reaction to the Floyd killing. So I guess maybe that one people forgive or forget. Another of the stories that you're not going to hear much of in the right way, with the right emphasis on it, for sure, this one, and that is keeping the package tied together between Israel and the UK and some other defense spending, because they decoupled it they decoupled it from securing the border. Now, the Speaker of the House says you're not getting it without tying it to security for the border, because you want to pass a bill for security that pretends to be an omnibus bill for security. If we put in the order of importance, what's the most important for American security, it'd run something like this: stopping the invasion of America, having Israel defeat the Islamic terrorists who want to come here and kill us next, and Ukraine defeating Russia, in that order. 1, 2, 3. Ukraine being last. And it isn't ordered that way. I mean, they put it all together, and by a large amount, the vast amount of money goes to Ukraine, even though they've already gotten incredible amounts of money. So they already got about 120 billion. This would be 60 more. It would bring them to 180 billion. Over the last 7 or 8 months, as huge amounts of money and equipment have been given to them, haven't made any progress, and they have no plan. And of course, you're not going to expect that we're going to have a plan, because we have no brains. So why are we giving this money? To get Russia out of Ukraine? Is there anybody that believes that they're going to get Russia out of Ukraine with this money? I mean, first of all, does anybody know how much they're going to use of this money for defense? Tell me all, and I will tell you you're lying. There's no way that money all gets to the government when Zelensky is the president. And you can sell other people on Zelensky being, an angel. This is not an angel. A guy mentored by Kolomoisky is not an angel. Kolomoisky, his patron, is the biggest money launderer in Eastern Europe. Made all his money illegitimately, created a television studio, made Zelensky a multimillionaire. Was exiled before Zelensky became president, and Zelensky brought him back and has made him pay minor amounts for the crimes that he committed, just like he's done nothing about the president, the prior president, who was alleged to have taken over $100 million worth of bribes. He just keeps that covered up, like he covers up for Biden. So why do you think Biden is, not only is Biden trying to get the money to him, but nobody talks about putting checks on the money. This is not uncommon to require an accounting. It's it's an extra 2%. Accountants don't charge what lawyers charge. They don't even make a pretense. This money is going. A lot of people used to say it's the second most corrupt country in the world. I think to zing Russia, that Russia is the most corrupt. I'm not even sure that Russia and Ukraine are the most corrupt. You can't believe how corrupt countries are. To try to compare corruption in countries is, let's put it this way. For practical purposes, it doesn't get more corrupt than Ukraine. All right. I mean, the ability to do business there and not run into corruption is impossible. So you just better either not do it or avoid it very, very carefully, or only do business under very special circumstances. I used to write into the few business things I did there, things about what I wouldn't do. And I kept account of everything, because I like the people of Ukraine and I wanted to help them. And I'm very proud of the work I did in Kharkiv, because Kharkiv keeps resisting. They just did resist a Russian onslaught, and I'm so proud of them. Although I've lost a lot of friends there, including the mayor, who was a paraplegic because of the Russians and died a while back. But in any event, the reality is that it is a massive giveaway that we are not getting reports on how the money is spent. Even if you consider that we haven't won the war and we've put all this money in, wouldn't a legitimate president of the United States say, I'd like to see how we spent that money before I put in another 60 billion? Because I'm going to give him 60 billion, but I want to make sure we spent the first 120 billion right. Seems to me that might have been enough to defeat Russia. Nobody asked that question, which means this is phony as a $3 bill. And is that doing any good for the people of Ukraine? Or is that just a bunch of phony politicians who play with life and death? That's what it is. And then What about the disparity? 60 billion to Ukraine, who's already got 120 billion, and a big 14 billion to Israel. What? And you know how many strings they've put on that? Israel's not a corrupt country. Sorry. Israel is, I'm going to tell you this without any doubt, Israel's a more honest country than we are by a long shot. Although they do a pretty good job of framing their political leaders too. This whole thing that Biden is doing is becoming contagious. I see Maduro, in order to get money from Biden, because they were all starving because they're a bunch of communists, and communists starve eventually and kill each other, finally got Biden to buy oil from him. This is a self-created problem, you know, an unforced error in sports. This is a unforced error. This comes from Biden when he was first in office, cutting off the pipelines and the oil. And so now we need oil, we need gas. So we decide we're going to buy it from Venezuela, also cut off by Trump because they're a communist country. They play ball with China that would like to rule the world. Do you get that, numbskull? Well, he does business with him. Joe, tough Joe. I took on Cuomo. He required Maduro to promise Maduro's going to have a free and fair election. And they shook hands. Free and fair election. Well, Joe shook hands like this. He shook hands like that. And within 2 weeks, he made it a Biden free, a Democrat, American Democrat, free and fair elections. He indicted his main superior and put him in jail, the main opponent, who appears to be guilty of nothing other than running for office, which sounds like an American Republican candidate I know really well. And the thing that unites all four indictments are they're all brought by Democrats, and they all charge cases, alleged crimes that have never been charged before. We'll do it sometime. We'll go through it, and you'll see. I think you believe me about that. I don't have to go. Got to prove everything, but we'll prove it. We've done whole things on that. It now turns out that they were spying on Trump. How many times have we proved they've been spying on Trump? Now there's a new report. What was it? 72 of his people were under surveillance. That means I was. Okay. I mean, I was under such surveillance. It's really ridiculous. From the day that I represented him, roughly, which was in 2018, I believe. 2018, yeah, it was 2018. Sometime within a little while of that, they went and got my iCloud account with a search warrant alleging that I committed some kind of crime. They have never shown me this search warrant. They were spying on me for 2.5, 3 years without telling me. And they were spying on me originally to spy on Trump. Until the day I became his lawyer, they had no interest in me. I mean, they didn't like me very much anymore because I was the one who originally brought out Biden's criminality. Number one, me. You could give some substantial credit to John Solomon, and you could give some to Hannity for having covered it. That's it. Nobody else would touch it. Senators, FBI, forget it. But they stopped stealing all my things about a day or two after I stopped representing Trump. So, I mean, you might as well announce we're spying on his lawyer because he's his lawyer. Now, they wrote a letter to the grand jury saying that they had investigated me and they had no probable cause that I committed a crime and therefore had to drop the investigation. Now, you need probable cause to get a warrant, or it is suppressed, or they should pay me a lot of money. what happened to the probable cause? It existed in 18, but it wasn't there in 22 when they wrote to the grand jury. The probable cause just disappeared. Or is it possible that the FBI lied? Won't give me the affidavit. We're fighting for it. It isn't like, oh, gee, we didn't lie. Let me show you. Very transparent. A major law enforcement organization is tight as a drum because at the very top, it's crooked as hell. Then, of course, they got search warrants for my home, and they got search warrants for my law office. And once again, they found no probable cause that I committed a crime. I got a letter to the grand jury to that effect. I did not get an apology, and I didn't get any compensation for the millions of dollars they cost me and the destruction they did to my law practice. We'll be back with the we'll be back with a really let's take a look at Joe's condition. That should be interesting. We'll be back very shortly.
Body is an amazing chemical laboratory. When you give it the right chemistry, it functions the best. Balance of Nature is the ultimate whole fruit and vegetable chemistry.
Get 35% off your first order by using discount code RUDY.
Again, they really are. I was about to tell my colleagues that I've been taking, of course, I don't really know how long now, a Balance of Nature, the veggies. This is this is a condensed pill. In it are all of the vegetables that you need in order to have your daily recommended both mixture and amount of vegetables. And then the same thing with fruits. And the reason for it is that Dr. Howard, in his studies, determined a couple of things, how good it is for you. But number two, a lot of the supplements you take are attempting to make up for this one and that one and this one and that one and this one and that one. And finally, even though we eat veggies and we eat fruits, we don't do it regularly, and we don't necessarily do the right amount. So if you take, now there's, I think you got to experiment with it a little. I would say the minimum, this is Rudy now, I'm going to call Dr. Howard and find out if I'm right about this because I never asked him this question. I think the minimum you should take, two of each in the morning, 2 of each at night. That's what I think. There are people who do 1 in the morning, 1, and then 2. And there are people that do 3, 3, 3, 3. And I know people that go as high as 4, 4, 4, 4. So you think about it. You talk to your dietitian, your doctor, call them. They'll give you plenty of advice on doing it. But look, if you start with 2 in the morning, 2 at night, you're going to be fine. That's what Rudy does. Time.
And now we'll hear from another one of our great sponsors.
Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now.
And we're back.
Well, We have gotten several inquiries, which I'm more than happy to answer, as to what what that is on my head. I think many of you do know, but some of you may not. That those are ashes. Today is Ash Wednesday, which is the beginning of Lent in the Christian liturgy, and in the Catholic liturgy, Orthodox liturgy, most of the Protestant liturgies, or all of them, it would be the beginning of Lent. Don't know how many of the Protestant denominations practice Ash Wednesday. Certainly, Roman Catholics, Orthodox, Episcopalians, which are really Anglicans, I think Lutherans. And the idea is, it goes back to really, really the ancient church. And it's a very, very somber, but very important tradition. It's a reminder of where we come from and where we're going. From ashes, we come and we're returning. We come from the earth and we're going back to the earth. And the intervention there is through Jesus Christ, who came to save us and give us eternal life and bring us to God, his Father. So it's the way I always looked at it was, if you don't remember it during the year, you get one time in the year when the priest puts the ashes on you, and no matter what, you can't escape it. We're all going to have the same end. And is it going to be an end or a beginning? And we get that choice. And that's what it is for, and that's what we believe. People who get it are obviously expressing that belief, and maybe they're also wanting to show you their faith, not to push you or pressure you, but just to let you know that there still are people of faith, and that an awful lot of us still believe in God, even though the assault against God, I consider it a Marxist assault against God in this country, has been disgraceful. And I actually believe it's the core of our problem. And that is a much deeper discussion. But people ask me things like, how could things be so bad now? Oh, there are many explanations for that. And I don't want to simplify it. But you want to simplify it? It's because we threw God out. We threw him out of our schools. We threw him, in many cases, out of our homes, out of our public meetings. We threw him out of our thinking. We made people who believe in God feel like they were foolish and dumb, and only the Ivy League geniuses. We don't need God. We're smart. You know who was smarter than God? Karl Marx actually said it. Said he was like Lucifer. He was. That is. And so are the communists. And therefore, there's a lot to this. And I really would urge the following thought. How about this? Take a chance on going back to God. And if you don't go back to God, respect people who do. Respect them for their beliefs. Because unless you see a hypocrite, and you might, but you see hypocrites who believe in God, hypocrites who don't believe in God. There's no connection between being a hypocrite and believing in God. And Jesus did a pretty good job with the hypocrites who who believed in God and made a big deal out of it. So just respect people who do, because we're going to have a better society if people believe in God. We always have. Where societies believe in God, we have a much better society. So I want to conclude this official portion of our show with the invasion, the Biden invasion, which is what I think it will be known as when we get back to studying, writing history again and studying it. Someday that might happen. We will be studying things like religion in school. We'll be saying prayers in school. We'll also be studying history, not brainwashed Marxist propaganda. And when we do, this will be known as the Biden invasion. The invitation would date to 2020, I believe in late August or early September, when Joseph Robinette Biden, that is his middle name, by the way, Joseph Robinette Biden, told all the illegal people around the world that they should surge to the United States because we wanted them. Well, he wanted them because he wanted to basically ensnare them into dependency so he could get their votes, because a lot of them are moving out. You see how the Hispanics now, majority for many polls, majority for Trump. See, he lost, in the last poll, he lost 36% of his black vote. They're getting scared. So they got to replace people that they have taken advantage of with new people they can take advantage of. And also, it is also part of the Marxist doctrine as to how you ruin a country. You eviscerate its nationality. I mean, we all talk about the Cultural Revolution in China. Go study sometime what it was for. It was to remove being Chinese. Communists are not Chinese. They're communists. They don't like China or the history of China or the religions of China, or like you see Shen Yun being advertised quite prominently. That's an attempt to recreate Chinese culture that's been eradicated. So when you experienced all of the burning of statues and burning of flags and kneeling and all these like things to dishonor America, and all these terrible stories about every one of our leaders is some kind of a horrible person, that's all to make it simple. It's to get you to hate America. Hate God, hate America, hate your parents. That's it. They got a trinity there. That's the three major Marx, Engels goals. And if they can do that, they got you. They got you. And aren't they doing that? Isn't that what they are doing? So this invasion is on purpose. Now, how does anybody tolerate this? How do the major newspapers and television stations, how do they look at this and not say, what is this maniac doing? We have no border. You can come in the Southwest, walk across the border, say the magic words that the cartel will write out for you, and you'll be here pretty much forever. You just say, I'm in fear of persecution. Then you are considered an asylee. It's really just another word for refugee. Refugee is if you do it in a foreign country. Asylee is if you do it here. Once you do that, the interpretation of the law supplied by Joseph Robinette, the crook Biden, is that you now get a hearing. You must get a hearing. And they then set down a time for hearing 4 years from now. And they put you out on no bail. In other words, you're admitted to the United States. And since you probably have no money, they give you the money to go someplace. Because the mayor of New York, for about 3 years, was acting like a clown, cheerleader for New York, and saying New York will give you more than anything else, more than anyone. We'll give you health insurance. At that time, nobody else was giving health insurance. California now gives you health insurance. New York will give you education beyond even high school. New York will give you housing. You have a right to housing in New York, no place else. He was actually, doing advertisements for New York like we were going to make money on it. Instead, what happened is, fast forward, 180,000 illegals have come through New York. 65,000 are in our housing system, pushing out our homeless and our veterans and being treated better than them. They also are creating a massive violent crime wave that is often not covered because they try to cover up the person who committed the crime. But when they delay telling you who committed the crime, it's usually an illegal migrant who committed the crime. They couldn't do it recently when 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of them beat up 3 cops because it was all on tape. They all come from Venezuela, and they all belong to a very, very vicious, well-known Venezuelan organized crime group, and are part of an organized crime group that's come to the U.S. and they specialize in different things. This group specializes in moped thefts. They drive along on their mopeds. If you are holding your normal, right, on the phone, we all do this, we're on the phone, right? Blah, 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 blah. Boom. And they're good at it. And I had a lot of experience with pickpockets because I had to get rid of them in Times Square. And Brad and I got rid of them in 2 months. You know how fast they got rid of these people? 2 months. First of all, they'd all be on a bus right away. If I can't send them out of the United States as the mayor, but I'd send them down to Harris's place. She's the czar. Remember, she's the czar. She got a big piece of property there. The Naval Observatory where she lives is gigantic. And she's a very, very dedicated liberal, so I'm sure she wouldn't turn them away. So the group that beat up the cops, I'd put them all in a big bus. I'd send them down there. And I'd say, you handle them, Harris. You told us you're ready to be president. The smartest thing that Abbott did is send them up to New York and Chicago. And all of a sudden, all the phony liberals had to deal with it. And now it's a truly a national problem. It should be a national problem. And the border should be closed, like your door is closed at night. And the people who got into your house illegally should be thrown out because they're not trustworthy, because they're going to rape your children. They're going to steal your food. Not every one of them. Most of them probably aren't, but a significant enough number will. And you don't know which ones will and which ones won't because we don't vet them. I've been in the immigration business since 1981. I handled the Mariel boat lift, which I never thought you'd see anything worse than the Mariel boat lift. The Mariel boat lift was a minor little inconvenience compared to what we're doing now. And even then with the Mariel boat lift, we knew who came in. And we put them in jail. Unfortunately, a lot of them escaped, and a lot of them we didn't catch. They came in illegally and got around us. But the ones that we got, we didn't do what Biden did. We didn't send them to New York. We put them in a holding facility and kept them there. We got sued. We got tortured. We got every articles about how mean and terrible we were. But we ended it in 2 years. And then they don't get out of Haiti. They get processed in Haiti. We did that before Trump did it in Mexico. But it was a much smaller problem. What Trump did in Mexico was nothing short of brilliant. And Dodo Bird reverses it immediately just because it was Trump. So this is why reversing the damage he's done to our country is going to be hard. Some of the things have been really baked into our government structure. Some of them are going to be easy. That's going to be easy. Securing the border will be easy. Now, you say, Giuliani, how do you know that? I'm going to give you a number, and I'm going to show it to you. When Trump left office, even though he had to worry about the pandemic and this, that, and the other thing, only 400,000 plus were apprehended at the border. When I say only 400,000 plus, that's a lot. But given the history of the last 30 years, it may have been the lowest year. Or if not, it was the second lowest year. The day Biden came in, he changed everything. And by the first year he was in office, he set a record for the most illegal people coming in. Not more than Trump, more than anyone, more than Obama. He went up to 1,400,000, 5. Then he went next year, another record, 2.2 something, and then 3.2 million. When you add up the people that came in that we didn't see, which usually is about 1-for-1 match, right? We got about 8 million people here. And we don't know who they are. When they used to come in under Reagan, Carter, Clinton, Bush, even Obama, A lot of questions were asked. I'll just give you the Chinese as an example, the ones we should know the most about. Just this year or last year, Biden reduced by executive order the number of questions we asked the Chinese. Listen to this, from 40 to 4. This is the country that wants to destroy us. We don't ask them any questions when they come in. What can you ask them in 4 questions? Are you a Chinese communist? No. Okay, I believe you. Will you overthrow the United States? No. Will you steal anything here? No. Will you kill anybody? No. Come on in. That's it. That's it. You're in. You're in. You can go. You can go be a spy anywhere you want now. That's all we know about them. I mean, it is possible they are very nice people. I'm not talking about China now. I'm talking about very nice people who are starving and they're lying about political persecution because they're starving. Okay, I get it. Okay, but that's a very small group. It's a small group. It used to be a larger group. I don't know how to tell you this. We used to have better illegal immigrants. We used to have a much better mix, I should say, of illegal immigrants. We had a lot of those people, like I just described, who were very, very poor. They had no other way to come in. So they would lie about being asylees, but they worked their backsides off. They're the people who worked in the fields. And every time I'd go into a restaurant in the 1980s or 90s in New York, and I'd go in the back originally, when I first go there, they'd all run out. And then I tell them, come on in, I can't deport you. You know, we have 400,000 illegals in New York. We can only deport about 4,000 or 5,000 a year. So we had to figure out, how do we handle it? How do we handle this in a way that makes it safe in New York, makes it safe and humane for them? And they were entitled to being safe and humane because they were not a crime problem. This is a crime problem, a big crime problem. These people are different. And when I say these people, would you please understand, I'm talking about a percentage of these people, but a critical percentage, a percentage that makes a difference, a percentage that will destroy some of our cities. And the mayors of those cities know it, and they're begging Biden to do something about it. And they're Democrats, and he's doing nothing about it. But they're too afraid to really stand up to it because their love of their country is not great enough to give them the couillons to do something about it, which is why the Democratic Party is in such great need of reform right now. So this invasion, to me, is the biggest problem that we have. And it will change we will not have in America, if we reelect Biden or Newsom or Newsom is just as tied into this as he is. I'm not even sure Biden is the biggest proponent of bringing in the what they would consider new voters. And then you look at that video. Shall we just show that, Ted? Do we have that available?
We do.
Of those police officers being beaten. I don't know. I don't think you can look at this often enough because you got to develop something about this. This gets me so upset and so angry. If they weren't, of course, illegals, it would be the same thing. But just to think, we let these people into our country, and this is what they do to our police officers. So what you just saw is that was accomplished by a group known as Tren de Aragua. They're a group that is about 10 years old, and they started in Venezuelan prison, spread to Los Angeles and the West Coast. They are not a disorganized group. They're a fairly well put together organized crime group, not the size of the Mexican cartels yet. They are alleged to be involved in negotiations. How these people negotiate, I don't know. But negotiation with MS-13, that's the group that Trump originally in 15 described as animals. Remember when he got into trouble? It turns out that the reason he did, and nobody wanted to listen to, was shortly before he did that on Long Island, which is a place in New York, they had taken over a community. And the first thing they did is take just a random young girl, 13 years old, and chop her head off and leave her on a beach to make their point. And since then they've been a menace in parts of Suffolk County, and actually they've really not concentrated quite as much on Suffolk County as we thought they would, but they're all over the United States now, and they are probably they like to feature themselves. They are not the biggest and not the most powerful group. The Sinaloa cartel, some of the others are much bigger. But they like to feature themselves as the most shockingly violent. Chop the head off, rape a dead body, and let the whole community find out and frighten them. And they're like the mafia in the sense that they focus on their own immigrant community, both legal and illegal, who are too afraid to do anything about it. And we bring them in. We give them bus tickets. We bring them in. Now, here's the thing that's the most shocking about this. And now this goes to the second problem of what's wrong with a decrepit, decaying, anti-American, almost communist Democrat Party. The district attorney of New York let them out. Every one of those animals was let out. And then he re-indicted them because of all of the public outrage, because he's a phony, and said all these terrible things about them, but they're all gone already because of him. And the district attorney of New York County, whose name is Bragg, was put there with millions by George Soros, and he is an extreme version of the Democrat pro-criminal agenda. And he is probably the reason for many, many of the crimes that we have in New York. But now he's playing with fire with this group. I mean, they found something they couldn't, I'm sure they didn't believe that they'd be treated so well in America. They're treated much better in America than they are in communist Venezuela. Now, I'm going to leave you with a thought that comes from my own personal history. When I told you that I handled the Mariel boat lift, I handled it after Carter created it. And I was appointed by President Reagan as Associate Attorney General. Jimmy Carter, who is often described as the luckiest president because of Obama and Numbskull, made a statement that he didn't think of the implications of. I think it was in 78. And he said to the people of Cuba, who Castro was stopping from coming into the United States and being reunited with their people who had escaped to America, and the Cubans are probably, I don't know if there's any ethnic group that succeeded as fast as the Cubans. They came over, they were exceedingly patriotic Americans, exceedingly law-abiding, and very, very business-oriented. So in very quick order, they had enough money to bring their relatives over, faster than a lot of other groups. But Castro stopped it. And Carter criticized him for it. And at one point, Carter said, you should send them all. Castro, being the evil genius that he was, sent 100,000 legitimate, good people to reunite with their families. So we wouldn't notice that for every 4 like that, roughly, he'd send in a criminal, but not just a criminal, a convicted murderer, a lifer. Oh, how about people from the insane asylums? How about the child molesters? How about the straight out and out maniac murderers? how about 25,000 of them? He snuck them in with them. And all of a sudden, these crimes are being committed in Miami. Miami, which was a quiet little vacation community, became one of the most violent cities in America. And then the Haitians started to come in at 100,000 each. And it was a disaster until we got something called a president who had a love of America, love of people, and common sense. And we stopped it, and it took a while and made some permanent changes. It left some, unfortunately, bad marks, but largely got controlled. And this is bigger. It's going to be harder, but it can be done. Trump's done it before. He had immigration under control at 420. It's now 3.2 million. I can't tell you exactly how long it'll take him to get it back to 420, but I'd be surprised if it took any more than a year to get there and then to really start bringing it down. So we will go into that in much more detail. I have, for the longest time, my great plan for how you control illegal immigration using my ComStat system. I have it on a map. I've got all kinds of little drawings, and sometimes maybe you'll indulge me and look at it.
Well, can I put you on the spot, Mayor, before we go?
Pardon me?
Can I put you on the spot real quick before we go?
Yes, you can put me on the spot.
All right. Well, today, of course, is Valentine's Day.
Of course, I should have remembered
And
that
it's
as well.
And we should have gone over this last night. It was a special election. We were real busy. But what advice do you have for folks out there who may be looking to impress the love of their life, or really wants to win some good points, some brownie points from their significant other?
Well, I became Dear
Some-
Abby now.
Yeah. So give us something.
You want me to give love advice?
Well, this is something that you've been around. You've been on this earth for a number of years. Maybe, I mean, you've celebrated a number of Valentine's days. Give us something here. But we're not looking for advice to the couple that's been together for 50 years, right?
Of course we
Give
are.
us some advice.
The
No,
couple that's
they
together-
figured it out.
No, they haven't. Maybe they're not happy.
Okay. Okay, fair enough.
The
Yeah.
couple that's together for 50 years, don't take it for granted. It is Valentine's Day. It's the day that you make a gesture of some kind, a gift. I mean, if you want to make it a heart with candy, but a lot of people don't have the candy any longer because it's fattening. I mean, so I don't know, just get the heart. I give the person that is your special person, the
Yeah.
person that you love, even if it's become 50 years and you're sort of used to it. I think you're going to find that, particularly a woman, if you as a man have not paid attention to it for a while, if you go out even this late and you get yourself a little heart and you go give her the heart,
Oh, before midnight. Well, on the West Coast, it's only 6:15, so there's plenty of time.
They're going to love it. They're going to love it.
Women love flowers.
And women,
They love
and
flowers. I don't get it.
flowers too, but I may be wrong about this, and women will have to educate me on this. And I never ask, but I always think you got to come up with some kind of heart.
For Valentine's Day. Okay.
If it isn't one with candy in it, then it's one with a little piece of jewelry heart, or maybe you could have perfumes in it or something.
Yeah.
And then if you want to get it's up to your circumstances, and you can get a very inexpensive gift, a very expensive. Remember the day. That's the important thing. And remember, even if, gosh, you're real poor and you can't afford anything, just ask her to be your Valentine. Say, would you be my Valentine?
And even one flower, again, I'm going to stress that point. Women
I'm
love
even saying,
flowers.
God forbid you don't have, the resources, or you're involved in something really major, and if you just stop for a moment, and if you stop your life for things like this, you're going to live a lot longer. Okay. So we're going to be back next week, and we're going to have quite a week. We got an awful lot to cover. We're heading toward the South Carolina primary, right?
That's right.
And it's going to be a really, really big one. We got to see how much more comes out on Biden's criminality. A lot more has come out with Bob Alinsky testifying today. And let's see what happens with his boop, boop, boop. And
in Atlanta tomorrow, we'll be watching Fulton County
in
special
Atlanta,
hearing.
We'll be taking a look at what Annie the Big Fanny does in
Now
Yeah.
tables have turned. Now she's going to be before the judge. How
Yeah.
quickly tables have turned.
You make sure now that Trump and I don't go to jail. She does.
You'll be questioning
Fair.
the stand. You'll be questioning her up on the
To
stand.
be fair, we didn't commit a crime. She did. So I want to thank you very, very much for listening, and you make this show possible. I'd urge you to please, as I said, go to mypillows.com/Rudy and the others that we have. Oh, particularly Tunnels to Towers. That's a duty. TunnelsToTowers.com, and make your $11 a month contribution. And remember, it's Ash Wednesday also. It's quite a thing to think that that's where you're returning. So you want to return there and got the best possible case to make for yourself. See, I'm a lawyer, so I keep storing up the good things I do. And I try to remember them. And thank God I'm not afflicted like Biden and I forget because there are a lot of other ones I got to make up for. So do good things. God bless the people of Israel. God bless the people of the United States, and God bless America.
Our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are